I'm Jason UFC, and today we have a story about UFC middleweight contender Robert Whittaker says he was never offered a fight with Khamzat Chimaev. Uh-oh, what is this? Robert Whittaker is setting the record straight when it comes to claims that he was offered a fight with UFC welterweight contender Khamzat Chimaev. On a recent edition of the MMA Hour with Ariel Hawani, I believe that's the entire title, Khamzat Chimaev told Ariel Hawani that one of the fights he was offered following his Chimaev's UFC 279 victory over Kevin Holland at a catchweight fight was one with former middleweight champion Robert Whittaker on his podcast Arcade? Is it Arcade? I have to figure out what's the name of this podcast. Robert Whittaker gave his side of things. Someone said that Chimaev said that UFC, offered me a fight and that I turned it down. Whittaker said. Whittaker says this: I was never offered a fight with Chimaev, and that's that. I haven't been offered any fight. I've just been waiting. How's that? Like, I don't understand how that's. I don't understand that at all. The UFC had announced that Whittaker was slated to. This story is just unbelievable. Oh, the drama. The UFC had announced that Whittaker was slated to face Paulo Costa at UFC 284 in February, but the bout never came to fruition with Saturday's UFC 287 main event for the middleweight title between Alex Pereira and Israel Adesanya, who holds two victories over Robert Whittaker. The result could very well determine what's next for Robert the Reaper Whittaker. I thought it was Bobby Knuckles. I like Bobby Knuckles better. Anyway, I've been talking with the UFC, and the communication has been, let's wait and see what happens with this title shot. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, so we have to hold on. What did he say? I haven't been offered any fight. I've just been waiting. Okay, and then the next thing he says, I've been talking with the UFC, and the communication has been, let's wait and see what happens with this title shot. Okay, where it occurs, but I have not received any sort of written contract that says, do you want to fight Chimaev in X, Y, or Z? That's not something that's been presented to me. So just clarifying that. Oh, wow, he's calling cap. Oh man. Okay, so that's interesting because I mean his story seems to hold up. He says, "I haven't been offered any fight. I've just been waiting." Then he says the communication with the UFC has been, let's wait and see what happens with this title shot, right? If Israel Adesanya wins, maybe, Israel Adesanya and Alex Pereira fight again for a third time. Ferreira, Brandon Figueroa, Moreno and Figueroa type of rematches. Would Whittaker get a title shot versus Pereira if Pereira wins? Pereira has been hinting that he wants to go up to the light heavyweight division, the UFC middleweight division. I gotta be honest, it's starting to get a little bit messy here, right? Like we had the UFC allegedly not really offering not really offering Robert Whittaker any fights, saying that he should just wait to see what happens with the title fight. You have Pereira saying, the current middleweight champion, saying that his team is putting it out there that he can go all the way up to the heavyweight division, right? If Izzy loses, what happens with that? If Pereira wins, does Pereira even stay in the middleweight division? Are we talking about Robert Whittaker versus Israel Adesanya, and Israel Adesanya is on a 2-fight championship lose streak, right? So what happens if, Pereira wins, Israel loses, Pereira vacates? Who's the number one contender? I would imagine it would be Robert Whittaker, but who would Robert Whittaker face, right? Would it be Izzy? Would it be wrong for Robert Whittaker and Izzy to face each other? It's just so much going on. And then we also talk about a little bit more of the drama with Paulo Costa, who, it says that UFC had announced this is very important. This because we got to read this, very important. The UFC had announced that Robert Whittaker was slated to face Paulo Costa at UFC 284 in February. And I cannot stress this enough, even though I am an MMA casual, Paulo Costa, from the very first time the UFC announced that fight, said that fight was not happening. Like, he was not going to fight Robert Whittaker in February. I don't know if he said he didn't sign the contract or he's never been offered or something, but he just kept saying the fight was not happening. And the fight didn't happen, obviously, and Paulo Costa actually just signed a new contract with the UFC. So I'm surprised they didn't reschedule that fight. Who's Paulo Costa fighting next? Is he fighting Sean Strickland? Is he fighting Chimaev? Have they offered the fight to Paulo Costa and told Robert Whittaker, well, if Izzy wins, we'll give you a title shot. If Alex wins, we'll give you a title shot. If Alex wins and vacates the belt, you'll get a title shot. There's so much drama going on in the UFC middleweight division right now. We need a little bit more clarity. Where's Jared Cannonier, Marvin Vittori? There's so many more fighters, and the middleweight division is just I'm not gonna say boring. It's just right now, for compared to like the welterweight division, even the light heavyweight division, the UFC middleweight division right now is just not as fun as some of the other divisions in the UFC. Like, even the heavyweight division, that's there's a new fire lit under their feet, right? And it seems like the light heavyweight division with Jamal Hill winning, and there's Ankalaev, there's Yuri, there's not Glover, there's did I say Yuri? I said Yuri already. There's Jan Blachowicz. So light heavyweights, there's some clarity going on there. But the middleweight division, we don't know what's going on. You have Robert Whittaker waiting. You have Paulo Costa looking like he may fight a welterweight. Sean Strickland, where is he at? Marvin Vittori coming off of a win we haven't heard from Jared Cannonier after he defeated Sean Strickland. Like, what's going on? It's just a lot of drama going on in the UFC middleweight division. Maybe we'll obviously get a lot more clarity this weekend after UFC 287 main event with Alex Pereira fighting Israel Adesanya. A lot more clarity. Probably not a lot of matches made on Sunday or Saturday night, but next Tuesday we'll get a little bit more clarity hopefully a lot more clarity. Hopefully a lot more clarity in the UFC middleweight division. But I'm Jason, UFC. Today we had a story about UFC middleweight contender Robert Whittaker says he was never offered a fight versus Khamzat Chimaev by the UFC. So he's calling cap on Khamzat Chimaev claims on the MMA Hour. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the $1 donation button. And please tune in to the next video on this channel. Thanks a million for watching.